Today we'll be having a discussion day with Hirak Jyoti Das. He did his bachelor's in zoology from Cotton College in Assam. After that, he did his master's in molecular and human genetics from BHU. And during his master's, he did a project for on immunology. He is qualified CSIR NET with All India rank 37, along with DBT fellowship as well as GATE. He has applied for various fellowships in Germany for Max Planck to DKFZ. Currently, he is Marie Curie Early Stage Researcher Fellow from University of Freiburg in Germany. So, welcome, Hirak. Looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you, Nancy, for the kind introduction and giving me the opportunity to share my experience in my journey towards getting a PhD position, let's say. So, today I'm going to tell you about the research and career opportunities in Europe, which is based on my experience on applying different positions in mostly in Germany and also in Switzerland. And in 2019, actually, I applied for several PhD positions because I wanted to do my PhD abroad. And mostly I wanted to do in Europe because firstly, I want to also experience the European life. And after several attempts and qualifying for several rounds of interviews and selections, I finally got the Marie Curie Fellowship also, which I took for my PhD to start my PhD journey. So first, I would like to give you a snapshot of Europe. Europe consists of now 47 countries, which has a strikingly diverse landscape in terms of language, culture, and history. Out of these 47, currently 28 countries belong to the European Union, a common economic space established in 1957 with the goal of ending frequent wars between neighboring nations. And out of these 28, a group of 26 member states has abolished passport controls at their mutual borders and have established a common visa policy to facilitate international travel, and this area is called the Schengen area. And now the question is, why Europe? Why not any other country or any other continent? You have great opportunities of getting fully funded positions in top research institutes. You have the chance to gain experience in a multicultural research environment. You have the opportunity to get hands-on experience in scientific techniques and also get access to the state-of-the-art instruments. You will most importantly have a very perfect work-balance life, which I think is the best thing about Europe, where you do not have a pressure to publish or perish all the time, but you have a very good balance towards it. And then you also have the opportunity to travel across popular destinations with just one visa. And if anyone wants to read more on this, why Europe is a top destination for many researchers, there is this nice article on Nature by Quirin Scheinmeier, and you can just go and read it. So now the scope of bioinformatics in Europe. Most European countries, mainly France, Germany, Switzerland, are the pioneers in the field, and they recruit the most number of bioinformaticians or data scientists every year. With state-of-the-art omics technologies and modern computational infrastructure, Europe provides opportunities for all. In Germany, it's the Max Planck Institute, or in Switzerland, it's the Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics, which are the most sought-after places for bioinformaticians all around the world. The most key important requirements, or the important requirements as for a bioinformatician in most of the published, let's say, positions that you find is first the knowledge of programming or scripting language. Mainly it's Python or R. So you have to have some basic knowledge of programming, and then you have to have experience with bioinformatics algorithms and applications, and also some knowledge of basic statistics, because most of the labs here are always doing high throughput studies like NGS or single cell sequencing or proteomics at single cell level or top down or bottom up, both kind of proteomics, and you have different kinds of data and you have to understand the data structure You have to have a basic knowledge of what you want to apply, what kind of statistical tests you want to apply, and then analyze the data. And nowadays, knowledge of machine learning methods is a plus because most of the labs always look for people who have some experience with machine learning algorithms. But the good thing is most labs usually require basic skills from a bioinformatician to start with and develop it further. Like the bioinformatician in our lab who has been, he's a postdoc and he has been a bioinformatician for the past 4 years, but he was actually a biologist who worked on cell signaling, but he also knew a bit of programming and stuff. And within the first few months of joining, he got really interested and he invested his time. And now he is the most indispensable part of the lab. Like everyone goes to him for all the kinds of data analysis. So now how to find a PhD position, and this also applies for most postdoctoral positions, but because I had more experience with a PhD position, I want to just mention PhD, but it's the same. So you have two approaches, like for PhD positions. One is the structured approach and the other is a non-structured. For structured approach, it involves an application process which involves several rounds, and it's from most of the big institutes like the Max Planck Institutes, from DKFZ, which is the German Cancer Research Center, or you have similar schools of like PhD training schools, which are like this SGBM, Spielmann Graduate School of Biology and Medicine. This is a school of for PhD students in Freiburg. And there are also several others which you can always look up. And this is a structured approach, and there is the non-structured approach, where you have to directly mail a PI who might have funding, or you have to apply for external funding first and then go to the lab and apply under the PI. So first, the structured PhD programs. You have to look for structured PhD programs of various institutes in their websites, like the Max Planck Institute. There are several ones, and you have to go into the website and see and find out when they are taking the applications. And once you have the timeline ready, then you have to prepare the application, which involves writing a letter of motivation, description of prior research work or experience with some general research techniques, explaining why and how of your interested research project, because you will find that in the structured PhD programs, usually several PIs advertise their positions, and you have to find which position you are interested and why you are applying to them. You have to read their papers, you have to describe what's your idea. So then you have to send the application via mail or portal. There is dedicated portals, or you have to just mail the person responsible who is taking the applications. And most of these applications are free of charge. Specifically for Germany and Switzerland, I know that they are free of charge. So then there is this first screening process where your application is either selected or rejected. So in this first screening process, I know from Max Planck Institutes that when I apply, they receive around 400 to 500 applications, and from this they only select like 40 to 50 people for the second screening process. In the second screening process, you have video conferencing interview where they discuss about your prior research experience, why and how are you going to carry out the project that you are interested in, and several questions by the prospective PIs who might be interviewing you. And once you are selected in this, and they really know that okay, you are a very good prospective candidate, then they call you for a third screening process, which is in-person interviews. Usually it's for 3 days at the institute, which is fully funded by the institute or organization. And in these 3 days, firstly, you have to present your prior research work on the first day itself, and the second and third days are into several rounds of interviews, and it's a lot of like stressful interview days. But once you qualify, then they have out of this, let's say 40 or 50 people, from the second they only call around 20 people, let's say 20 to 25 people for the third screening process, and from this they only select 10 or 15 people at most for a PhD. So it's a bit challenging, it's very competitive, but it also gives you a very good idea, because if you are already in the third screening process, which I also did for several other several places where I applied, you already meet a lot of PIs and you have a chance to visit the country and you can personally meet several PIs who might not be even taking through this structured program, but you can in person meet them and talk and discuss about the projects and stuff, which gives you a lot of exposure to talk to them. Then the second is non-structured PhD, which is like if you are truly passionate about the topic. Let's say I was very passionate about immunology at first, and I really liked to work on inflammasomes and stuff. And then you want to work with the experts in the field. You know several PIs in the field who are really good at it, and you want to apply in their lab. So then you find out the PIs who might have this experience and who might have the funding in the lab. You can always look up into their website and see which are the funding they have got recently, and that might already tell you that they might have funding that you can apply to them. Then you have to prepare your letter of motivation and CV, and then you have to compose an email. So this email should be very short, but it should be clear of your desire to join the team and what you can contribute, because that's what they will be looking. For this, you have to read papers, you have to understand the work of the lab better to make an interesting point, because these PIs whom you are mailing receive around 200 to 300 emails every day. So if they have a PhD position, let's say, or they're funding, they really want to get an idea of what you can offer, what you can contribute in a very short moment. Like they don't have time to really go through it all. So you have to be very clear and concise. And then your CV should be simple and clear, and the letter of motivation should be concise with a good storyline of your achievements and learnings so far. And even after doing this, getting replies depends on several factors. And you might send 10 or 20 emails, and you might not even get one reply. This might also happen, but you have to keep trying, and at some point you will be successful. And about the external funding opportunities, you can also apply external fundings or fellowships such as DART Fellowship, Boehringer Ingelheim Fonds PhD Fellowships, or for postdocs, you can apply for the Alexander von Humboldt Postdoc Fellowship. Now, when you apply for this, you have to contact the PI that you are already applying for this funding, and you would require a confirmation letter for the application, because this kind of applications requires that the PI gives you a confirmation letter that in case you receive the funding, then you are welcome to join the lab. So you have to talk with the PI also regarding this fellowships. And then you have to prepare the application as per the requirements of these programs. Now, some useful websites which you can note down for several structured and non-structured PhD or postdoc programs, or also jobs are like for Germany, I know the most important is dart.in and also dart.de, which you can go and you can already see a lot of advertised positions or fellowships or a lot of information. They also conduct several webinars online and also in-person seminars where they give you a lot of information, how to apply, what are the criteria and stuff. Then the second most important, I would say, is Job Vector, because here you can really look for what kind of positions you want, and you can set up email alerts, and you can get these email alerts almost every weekday when there are several positions advertised. And then you have research in Germany.org and find the PhD.com. Find the PhD generally for all of the PhD positions that are advertised in the world, but you can also select specifically the location or kind of PhD for full-time or part-time and stuff, and then you can always search. For Switzerland, you can go at this website, newwho.ch, where you can also set up email alerts and you will get notified about these positions. And most of the times when you get this kind of alerts, it's mostly written in their native language. Like say in Dutch in Switzerland, it will be written in the German language. So you can just use Google Translate to translate it. It's not a big deal. And then there are others, like for several institutes or university and company website, you have to visit their website, keep checking at the jobs they offer or the positions they offer, or you can also subscribe to the newsletters. Like here I show you a snapshot of Job Vector, which I just searched for today. Like if you search as bioinformatics in Job Vector, then you can already see that in DKFZ there is a position postdoc in genomic data science and bioinformatics. There is one in this Leibniz Institute, Max Planck. So you can just do this. search, you already know this, and then you can also set up alerts about the job type using your email, and you can get these alerts every day. Then you can apply. Now, how to apply for a PhD position? So basically, you need three things: the letter of motivation, your CV, and transcripts. Mostly when you are applying for a PhD, publications are not too much important, I would say, but it always helps to have some publications. But for postdoc, of course, you will need publications that really showcase how good your work is or what you have contributed into the field with your work. So, regarding the letter of motivation, it plays a decisive role in determining if you will be accepted or not. It helps the admission committee to differentiate between an excellent candidate and an outstanding one. And this is very important when you apply also for the structured programs, because you are writing an application where there are 400 to 500 people, you are competing with them over an application which they will just read. And how can you really express yourself that you truly want that position and you truly deserve it? So you have to be very good at expressing, because an excellent candidate might have very good publications and he have very good skills, but an outstanding one will know how to demonstrate these skills using his words. So you don't tell them what your skills are, but you show them the skills. And this, you have to first describe your background. You have to describe what drives you, your thoughts and ideas which led you to this moment, and what you want to achieve in the future. And this, you have to make a storyline while describing your experience and skills. And this should be around 2 to 3 pages. And to really get help on how to write this letter of motivation, you can just Google search Charité Berlin hints and tips for writing a letter of motivation.pdf, and this, you will get a very nice PDF where they very nicely they explain it to you how to write a letter of motivation. They can start writing. Yes, and it's an iterative process, so you will write it and then you will check it, and you will write it, check it, and you will do several rounds to really come up with a very good one. And then the CV should be maximum 1 to 3 pages, and it should describe your educational background, skills, research experience, important awards and fellowships, along with a few lines on extracurricular achievements that you might have. It should be simple in layout, plain white or light color background with easily readable font size. And most importantly, it should describe your analytical and computational skills, which should be highlighted or written in a way that's easily catchable or readable. And you should not put all the certificates and workshops and stuff that you have really have the certificate. Just don't put it in your CV, because nobody cares if you just attended a workshop somewhere where you didn't contribute. Just put down the stuff that's really important. And yes. And a good example is if you Google search Uni Göttingen CV Ehrik, because I was just looking for some examples, and you can find this PDF and you can find this CV of this person, Ehrik, and you can really take an idea of how to make a very simple and effective CV. So once you apply for this, you can keep trying, and at some point you will make it, you will be successful. Until then, you have to keep trying, because I think I also applied for 20 or 25 different structured programs, and also I mailed to PIs I think more than 40 different mails, and at some point it's a bit also demotivating if you don't get responses, but if you keep trying, you will get it. And out of this 25, I was selected for 4 or 5 in-person interviews. So I came to Germany 2 times actually to give the 3rd round of interviews in the video by the in-person video interviews to give them. So now the key advantages of doing a PhD or research work. Let's say I'm showcasing it in terms of Germany. What I have seen is you get to be a part of a multidisciplinary collaborative team, which lets you learn new things and establish your career. The best thing is you have strict working hours. We are paid to work 8 hours a day, so I don't stay in the lab for more than 8 hours a day. I don't stay too less also. You have a very strict working hours, and also a very good work-life balance, because We only work 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, and from Saturday and Sunday is completely off. Like people don't work unless you have very important revisions to do in terms of your manuscript or something. Then you can work on Saturdays, but usually people don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. And then you can take 30 days of paid vacation every year to travel around or to go back home or just to relax. And these 30 days are mandatory, like almost mandatory, because if you don't take these 30 days of paid vacation, at some point there are university officials who like suspect that maybe you are being overemployed or something, and they will come to you and ask you that why you are not taking vacations, because everyone takes this 30 days of vacation and you get your salary also during this 30 days of vacation. Then you have lab retreats every year, because you are always part of some kind of project collaboration or consortium, or your field has some kind of retreats, and you get to travel to new city where you present your work and also enjoy new experiences with your team. You can travel and you can tour several places. You also have the potential to meet collaborators and develop your network. And then most important is you have mandatory health insurance in most European countries, and half of this health insurance is paid by the University of the Institute, and half of it you are paying with your salary, and you have like free access to all like health. Yes, you don't have to worry about anything here. Even if you're hospitalized for any minor diseases, you get everything for free. And then you have social protection, because here you pay a let's say social fees every month, and let's say you are jobless, let's say you you had some kind of problems in the lab and you had to leave the lab, and then for several months you are protected in this social stuff, in this social insurance stuff. So you still get money and your rent is paid by the government until you find another job. So you have social protection. Few challenges are that the European culture is very different and it might not fit your expectations, and you have to manage somehow, because let's say in Germany people are not very, let's say, social at first. They are quite reserved. I like it because they also keep your personal and professional life completely different. It's completely different two lives that people live here. And yeah, this is good because when you are at the lab, you are working professionally, and then after your lab, you have your own personal life to deal with, which for us Indians, it's a bit odd because we are more warm people who likes to, be more close, but you have to really manage somehow. And yes, the first thing, and also it's important that there is a language barrier, because only 2 out of these 28 or 20 whatever European countries speak English, and every other countries have their own language, and you have to, at some point you have to learn the language to experience life completely. And learning the language is advisable, but it's not very easy because you have to also manage time with your research work. You have to really put in the time to learn this language, but it's very important. And at the beginning, you have an unfamiliar environment, which might make you uncomfortable at first, but you will have to learn small and important things, and over time you will learn them. And yes, and then in most EU cities like Zurich or Berlin or Munich or big cities, you have a very high cost of living. That's why it's very difficult to sometimes manage expenses, but you have to manage it very carefully when you're living in big cities. But if you're living in smaller cities, it's not like big deal. You can always have enough money to save something. And then the life beyond research, we always are also having some kind of retreats or some hiking programs. Like in our lab, we go to this Black Forest, which is just next to Freiburg. We do hiking, or in winter we go for snowshoe hiking. And then you can also travel across Europe, because Europe, you have one visa and you can travel everywhere. You can visit all these places. It's not too expensive. There is always cheaper ways to travel. You can always find cheaper ways to travel, and you can experience a life. And also, I didn't write it down, but you can here in the city where you are living, you can also take up several adventure sports or several hobbies that you want to pursue, and you can pursue them on the weekends, like most people do. Also, Now, opportunities to explore after a PhD. So, in academia, for PhD graduates, you can continue as a postdoctoral researcher either in the same field or related field to gain experience. And those who are already postdocs and have some experience can apply for ERC grants or Eminator program in Germany, or there are several others in other countries, which gives you some grant or money to establish your independent working group for the next 5 or 6 years. And in these 5 or 6 years, you can recruit PhDs or students, and you can work independently on your own research projects and publish well, and then you can also get other grants. Postdocs can also apply for lab project management positions or permanent scientist positions. And I have met several postdocs during my, let's say, tour across several labs who just did like postdoc for 1 or 2 years and then they do project management, because in the lab you have several projects running and you have to manage the finances, how the project is going. You have to manage everything because the one professor cannot do it alone. So you have also this lab project management positions. Or sometimes when you are in a big group where the funding is very large, you also have several permanent positions over time, like 1 or 2 positions in a span of 10 years, and you can apply to this. But these are very competitive positions, so you have to be very good at your work and you have to be very skilled to get these positions. Then you have in industry, you can always apply as a bioinformatician or a quality control scientist or similar positions in big pharma companies like Novartis, Roche, and others. Like for this, Switzerland is very good. You have all these big headquarters of Novartis, Roche in Switzerland. Or you can even apply for small startup companies. Like most of the people from our lab in the past 2 years have either went to a big, like because we are in a mass spectrometry lab, so we have very good experience with mass spec. So this experience helps a lot, and most of the people have either ended up in big companies, or now some people are also joining in smaller startup companies where you have more independent ways of working. Or you can also apply for project management, scientific communication, and clinical care jobs. You can always look up in Google what are the criteria for this job, what do they require, and you can always apply to them. So thank you for giving me the opportunities. And when I was applying, I was helped by Parash a lot, because at some point when I had to give my video conferencing interview, Parash helped me really well to prepare for the interview. He took a 1 hour interview. So it's always good to find mentors who can guide you. And Parash is a very good mentor. I'm so grateful for him. And when you have good guidance or have a very good idea how to proceed with this, you can just keep on applying, and at some point you will be successful. Thank you so much. Questions, please.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Thank you, Rarak.
Yes.
Yes. Someone has the question, please.
Yes. Hello, sir. It was very impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my final year in BSc, and I'm planning to do my MSc, Masters, and PhD in Germany. So I know Python. I'm from life science background. So should I take molecular science or cellular biology, or should I take bioinformatics? Because if I can take bioinformatics, they would usually say the requirements that about computer background credits or how many hours I spent. So what should I do, sir?
No, I don't think that for master's program they will really look into your bioinformatics skills too much, because it's just a program where you will learn stuff. But yes, it doesn't matter. It depends on what you want, because you have to think about what you want to do after your master's, after your PhD. If you want to really go into bioinformatics as a core data science or bioinformatician, then you can take up bioinformatics. Or if you want to do, let's say, biological molecular biology or something from biological science, bioinformatics, you can always have a scope in for bioinformatics in this field, because let's say most of the jobs that bioinformatics that are advertised for bioinformatics nowadays are taken up by data scientists, people with physics or computer science background. So they are very good at programming, I would say. They are very skilled with mathematics, I would say. But to understand biological data, you should also be a biologist at some point, because being a biologist, you know how the cell behaves, what you are expecting when you're doing, let's say, NGS of a diseased condition or a wild type condition. Then you expect what you expect to see. But a computer science background person may not know it. So it's always also helps to have biology background. So, and you can always switch. In Germany, there is no hard and fast rule. Like our bioinformatician was, as I said, it was a biologist who did cell signaling stuff, and now he is a completely core bioinformatician after joining the PhD. So yeah, it depends on what you want.
Thank you, sir.
Hira?
Sir, I have a question about
Yes,
scholarship for MS.
yes.
Sir, I have a question about scholarship for MS Bioinformatics because I have did my BS in Bioinformatics. So what
Okay.
about IELTS, what other tests they are required for scholarships, fully funded scholarship?
I think for Germany, I don't know, but you have to search for it. But there is not much master's level scholarship, but you get some stipends at some point if you apply for it. But you do not need scholarship basically, because I have seen most of the people who are doing masters. I've met few. There are basically no fees for master's programs. Most of the university programs, you don't have to pay fees. You just have to pay some kind of taxes or some kind of, yeah, yearly fees, which you can always manage. And most of the master students are also doing some kind of part-time jobs here to sustain daily. So you can always look up in Google. You can also find people who are working in this, and you can connect with them on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you can, and then you can discuss with them. But I think most of the programs do not offer scholarship. Basically, you can always apply for external scholarships though.
Thank you so much.
Next question is by DMK. Could you please unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the informative session. I would like to know learning of which foreign language will help us the most to survive there. And also, I have one more question: that how can we know which university offer full funding for PhD? I'm from basically from management area stream.
And you want to apply for a PhD, or what kind of
Yes,
programs are
sir.
you?
I would apply for PhD.
Yes, I think for PhD, it's not the university which will give you funding. The university gives the funding to the PI or the principal investigator. And mostly, if you are applying for non-structured, the PI already has the money, and you have to apply. And if he wants to take you, he will take you and provide you the scholarship. And if you want to look for fully funded scholarships, then you have to look at the structured programs. You have to look at the university website, and you will always find that they have some kind of structured programs, and you have to compete in these structured programs to get the funding.
Okay, so can you please tell which foreign language help us most to survive there?
It depends on where you want to go, but like I came here as a Marie Curie fellow, and Marie Curie fellows are not expected to have foreign language. Like depends also on the program. Let's say when you apply for a program which is, let's say, multicultural, multi-country programs, then you do not need to learn the language. But let's say if you are applying for a lab, which basically you can already see that the PI is advertising the position in German language, let's say, and you want to only do your PhD in Germany, then it's good to always learn the language, but it's not mandatory before you begin your PhD. After you begin, you can learn it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Sir, I have a bachelor's degree in pharmacy. Then, I pursued biotechnology in my master's, and now I want to go for bioinformatics in my PhD. And soon I'm going to join a lab as a project associate, uh,
Yes.
like in July. So, what are my chances of getting a PhD in bioinformatics? Like, do the foreign countries consider like so diversified background? Like, I have a pharmacy degree, then I did
Yeah,
biotechnology.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. They always consider like they don't care about your background too much as long as you have the skills that they need. Like we have a master student who is doing his master thesis in our lab till, and he is from a pharmacy background, pharma background. He also did his, like he did several years of job in a biopharmaceutical company, and now he wants to do his masters, and he is welcome. So I don't think that there is a hard and fast rule. It's just that when you want to do a PhD, you have to look what are the criteria that they really require, and if you are good enough for it, and then they will be happy to have you. Yes.
So do publication matter, sir, here?
That's a very tricky question because let's say for 80% of the advertised positions, publications don't matter because they don't. To get a publication is not that easy. Also, in anywhere, let's say, unless you are working in a big lab where you have did some kind of work and you just have your name in one of the top, like on one of the authors list. But most of the universities don't require publications, but it's always an advantage to have publications when you are applying for top universities, like in Germany. Let's say you are applying in Charité Berlin or TUM or the Max Planck. If you have a publication, then the PI always looks forward to those applicants more. But that's not the criteria, basic criteria. Firstly, you have to be just, yeah, you have to pass all the other rounds.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Sir, I have another question.
Yeah.
Currently, our college is undertaking, that is, I'm in my final year of BSc, but we haven't had any exams on third and fourth semester for in bachelor's. So during the application process, they would ask all the mark sheets. So what should I do at that time? Because application process starts at November or December. No, sir.
I think, yeah, you can, if you can get a provisional certificate, let's say from the university, it should do, because here they require that you submit that, but if you write to the person who is responsible for collecting the applications, they are always also very understanding of your conditions, that okay, your exam has not been taken, but you will get a provisional admission maybe on the basis that if you make it and you pass, then you get the admission or something. So you can always talk to them. Feel free to write to them, don't hesitate, and they are always willing to help. This is what I have experienced.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next question in the chat box is by Saridan Salah. Could you please unmute and ask? Okay, the question is, how do we find faculties of particular field?
Yeah, that's also a very interesting question and also a difficult one, because let's say it depends on what field you want to work. And for me, also it was quite difficult because when I wanted to apply to Netherlands and some universities, in the website itself, it's very hard to find a list of faculties. Sometimes it's like who is working on what, you don't know. But then it also depends on, if you're really passionate about a field, you always read papers, then you know the last author and where he is working, in which institute. And then you can look up this author's name on Google and you know what their team is working and stuff. So basically you have to either find the university websites or read enough papers and find the corresponding authors, and then that way you can find the faculties. Yeah.
Fine. Another question is by DMK again. How can we know that which universities offer full-time funding?
I think you have to look for it. You can always look for it, and it's always shown if they are fully funded. I think the main good thing about Germany, what I see is, if you are getting a PhD, it's always funded, because the German, let's say, law is that when someone comes from abroad, the PI has to show that the student is supported, so that they are not exploited at some point in the lab at some point without giving funding. So the PI has to really assure the government agencies that your project is funded. So most of the 90% of the advertised positions are fully funded or at least partly funded. So you can always look up also in Google.
Okay, next by Soham K. We are in the middle of pandemic, so are these institutes accepting applications from India?
Yeah, I think so because I do not know what the situation is, but I think because this is a very extraordinary time and they are always understanding of this, so you can always talk to them and at what time they are accepting applications and because of the COVID pandemic, what are the criteria. So I think they will be quite lenient with the criterias now, but they are, of course, they are accepting applications.
Okay. Next by Sonia John. I'm from zoology. I'm a zoology research scholar specialized in entomology and I know basic mole biotechniques. What could be the job prospects?
Depends on like what you want to work with. I cannot like, yeah, this is something that's totally on your choice, but geology is a like very vast field, and if you have some experience already with molecular biology techniques and stuff, you can always apply. Like look at me, like I didn't know anything about proteomics at all. Like in India, you know there are very few mass spec facilities. You do not know anything about mass spectrometry at all. But I applied to it. My PI was understanding that I don't know it, but I can always learn it. I knew the basics, and then in the lab I just joined and I learned it, and I'm almost 1.5 years in the lab now, and I know quite a lot than I knew before. So it also depends on the PI and the position, but you can always apply.
Okay. Next question by Akash. Uh, I want to know one thing is that IELTS or TOEFL like exams are required for going to European countries to do internship or PhD?
Mostly no, but for UK maybe IELTS is required, but not for most of the positions. And more like in Germany, they don't ask for it. If you can already show that your education background was in English for your primary and let's say for college degrees, it's enough. But sometimes some of the institutes require it. Like if it's a very structured program, then it's always good to have a good IELTS course because I was discussing with one of the PIs during my interview, and he told that the most thing that they are afraid of, about taking Indians is the fear that the communication is not good because when you are working in the lab, the most important thing is that you should be able to communicate no matter what your skills are. You may be the best molecular biologist in the country, but if you cannot come and converse with the other people, then it's already a big problem. So you have to demonstrate your skills in English. That's why it's good to always apply for this certificate courses. It lasts for 1 or 2 years, I think, and then you can always put this certificate in your applications. Then they already know that you are quite good in English, so that problem is already solved for them.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next by Jaresh V. I need to know about the application process.
The
Yes,
application
ma'am.
process, like yeah, please continue.
Yes, sir. I asked you the question. You
Yeah, okay,
repeat.
yeah, I already answered it. Yes.
Then by Anshuman Mishra. I have deep interest in drug research and development. I'm currently in a second year BTech biotechnology student. What can be the perfect path for it?
You can also find, let's say, after BTech, you can also apply for a PhD directly, I think. And in some programs, if you have done BTech, you can do a PhD or you can do masters and then apply for a PhD. But there are also positions where they also do this kind of drug research a lot. So you have to find this on Google. You have to find this on, let's say, Job Vector. You can also put this search terms like drug research or something, and then you can find these positions and apply. Yeah.
Sir, I have another query. Can I ask now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sir. Actually, does the quality of university matters? Because I'm not from a very well-established university, right? So, sort of moderate types. Does that really matters in doing a PhD?
I don't know this because I cannot tell if it really matters because in the end, if you are applying for a non-structured program, it also depends on the PI, what he sees in you, what he wants from you, and what he already sees in your application. For structured programs, they don't care too much about the university because when I was here for the Max Planck interviews, I also met few other Indians who came from universities in the south, like which are not too much of a like top universities, but they were still here and competing with others. So for structured, it doesn't matter. It matters is what how your good your application is.
Thank you, sir. Really great of you.
Any other questions? Okay, the next question is by Debajit Mishra. So non-structured PhD programs will publication effects on the funding?
No, the funding is always already with the PI. So if you want to have the position and the PI wants to take you, he will take you irrespective of the fact that you have publications or not. So it also depends on the PI because the PI is independent to choose whomever he or she wants. And in that case, if that person wants to have some kind of publication as a criteria to judge applicants, then it can be. But most of the times, what I have experienced is publication is not the key, but rather how you yes express yourself and your skills.
Okay. Then again by Jayaresh V. What happens if we don't qualify in the final round selection? What should be our plan B? Because after 2 rounds, we would have high expectations.
That's a very interesting question because I was here also for several interviews. Let's say in Max Planck, it's very competitive because after also qualifying all the rounds, you need to have approval of three different PIs and not one. So you have to have approval three or otherwise you are out. And you have to, yes, I got approval from two and I didn't get one. And I didn't make it in Max Planck. But the good thing is when you're already here, let's say for an interview, you already meet so many different PIs, and you also have the opportunity to mail other PIs that sir or ma'am, I am already in your city. I am from India. I am coming for Max Planck interviews. If you have some time, please can you meet me? Something like this. And you can always go. They are when you are already in their city, they would really like to meet you personally if they have some positions. So you can. This should be a plan B. Like if you are here for final interview, just don't think that you can rely on that final interview. Also, you should look at other labs who are not maybe advertising the position. Just go and talk to them. Be very confident. Be very smart. Go and talk to them and ask if they have funding or if you can apply for external funding together. Like most of the times I've seen that the PI might not have funding, but he says, oh, you can also apply for funding externally. You need anything from me, I'll be happy to help you. Just apply it, you get the funding and you come to my lab or something. So it's always good if you can already make it to the third round. That also gives you a lot of opportunities.
Okay. Next question by Silpa. Is it okay to apply in some other streams also if my publication is from a different stream as it was based on my dissertation?
Yeah, of course. I think if you look at the positions that are advertised, they are quite vast with the requirements. Like they always say that people with life science background can apply for this proteomics position, let's say. And if you had already some publications in that field, then you already have good more chances, let's say. Yeah. So it's also good that you can apply other streams. There's not a problem.
Next by Pravitha. Sir, could you please tell me how can I apply for PhD?
Yeah, this is what I told you, right? All the steps that you have to look, all the websites that I showed, I think this will also be recorded, so you can just go over the video if you join late.
Then by Manjoy. Hello, sir. My question is: do we need a unique research topic to get into foreign universities?
No, basically not. Basically, it depends on, let's say, your analytical skills. If you already have some analytical skills in molecular biology, you can always read up what the project is about. When you apply to a certain lab, you can always read their papers. It's always good to read papers, always good to have some ideas. Like you can always suggest the PI that, oh, you did this work this way, but we could also look for this gene because this gene also interacts with other genes. When you say something like this, the PI already knows that you are already quite skilled at. You don't need to have a unique, let's say, topic. You know, basically, you are a very skilled researcher, basically. So yeah, you already have chances.
Okay. Any other questions by anyone?
Sir, I have a question, one more. Sorry for sorry for interruption. Sir, actually, can I apply for teaching positions after direct PhD? Because there are some sort of limitations, like you have to do the masters after then PhD, then you can apply something like that.
In teaching positions in Germany or some other foreign countries, you mean?
In India already, or Germany too, anyone.
In India, I cannot tell, but you have to qualify certain exams. But in Germany, basically, even to be a teacher, you need some kind of vocational training, and also you have to be very good at the language because here most of the programs, only some are international programs with English, but most of the programs are also German. So German is a basic skill in Germany or in Switzerland or some others. So you have to be good at it, and then you can advertise. Like apply for it when it's advertised.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
So will there be any relaxation this time for masters, sir? Such as internships, because due to pandemic I couldn't do any internships. So will there be any relaxations this time?
This I cannot tell. You have to look at the master's program where you want to apply, and there is always one person who is responsible for attending your queries. You can just mail this person and ask them that what are the criteria or stuff, and most probably you will get a reply very soon, and then you can plan.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Hello, sir. I have already done my master's in bioinformatics, but I'm planning to study specialized in something like system biology or something like that. But I am planning to take 2 years gap. Is it become a problem later? Like master's in a specialized subject or PhD? So is it become a problem later on if I take some gap?
For yeah, the gap, you have to explain the gap basically. When you apply for structured programs, there's also a criteria point where they always ask like, did you have any gap year, and why did you have the gap year? And if it's for some personal reasons or something, it's okay. And if you can explain well why did you have it, there's not a problem. And also for a PR, when he looks at the gap year, they also are quite like curious to know why did you have 2 years of gap after this, because yeah, it breaks your flow basically, so you have to explain it.
If it means I am applying for some other job or something like that, is it okay?
Yeah, I think you have to find out yourself because it also depends on the positions. Most of the times they don't care also, but sometimes some PIs do care, so it also depends on what you are applying, but you can always try. You have to keep trying. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any questions? Any more questions now? Else we shall now in this meeting.
And so just have a quick comment. Thank you so much, Hirak, for a fantastic presentation. That's in fact, an awesome presentation and probably the best presentation I've really gone through. And you have always been very modest and very great. Thank you for the grateful acknowledgement, but it's your hard work. So, friends, I must say that Hirak made an excellent application for himself when applying for his PhD programs. He knew what he wanted to do most precisely. That's where what we call as scientific acumen of a PhD fellow. That's what we really call it as intellectual intelligence of a student, and that is most important for any applicant. So you should really be very clear in your thoughts. Even if you're not really clear in your thoughts, you must really be willing to learn what you really wanted to achieve. So I would always put it in this 3 A's. So please ensure that you put 3 A's always. One is achievable, number one. Number two is applicable, and number three is ensure that you should also adore the art of that particular country. You should also adore the people. You should also adore the scientific entity of that particular country where you really wanted to go through that. And for that, you need that openness, willing to collaborate. So that particular thing, I believe, Hirak has wonderfully put it. This was a fantastic event. In fact, I would rate this as the best talk and event so far in BioClose.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you so much, Hirak, for your time, and thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Nancy, Sakshi, Hima, and Rashmi, for organizing this. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Hirak. It was really an amazing talk.
So, friends, I think we should all unmute our microphones and give a thumping applause to Hirak. Yeah. I'm sure he must be missing those thumping applause being in Germany all these years. Thank you so much.
Okay, then thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a nice day. See you.